over to my colleague who serves as Chief Development Manager for the agency. Good morning, Pam.
Good morning. Thank you, Ashley, and welcome everyone. Thank you for taking time out to join us today. This morning, not only will I be presenting this presentation, I will be joined later in the presentation by my colleague Jane Bryce and also by John Manival, who serves as a consultant to Prince George's County. And I would like to point out that this webinar, it really is geared towards affordable housing developers that are planning to seek financing to develop and or preserve affordable housing in Prince George's County. And so right before you on this slide, it talks about the agenda. So today we'll be going over just a general NOFA background, the county executive's economic platform, the county resources that are being advertised within this NOFA, funding considerations, as well as our priorities, a brief slide on the county's employment and hiring requirements, and then Jane will join in and talk about submission requirements and our schedule. And we'll highlight a few of our projects just to give you an idea of what a typical project looks like. And I think, as Ashley said, you can put questions in the comments, and at the end, if time allows, we're going to have a live Q&A. So just to give you a little bit of a background, this is our third annual NOFA. Our last NOFA we did went from 2022 and it spilled into 2023. We issued support letters kind of around the summer of 2023. And, they were good for a period of 18 months. So while they weren't annual, this is our third annual one. But the last NOFA, we did get in 15 applications, just to give you an idea. And we supported 14 out of those 15 applications, of which 11 were new construction, 3 were rehab. And actually out of those, 12 of those projects are in our pipeline or under construction. And I would like to note, because I don't know exactly who all is in our audience, but if you were a developer that did submit in our 2022 to 2023 NOFA, and if that project has not been presented in front of our county council for approval as of yet, you will need to submit again to keep your project alive, to keep it in our pipeline, and to get a renewed letter of support, because I'm sure that support letter you received has expired. So just to give you a little kind of where our Northern Star is, I'm happy to say that in the summer of 2021, our recently former county executive, Angela Brooks, she announced her economic development platform. And as part of that platform, she made affordable housing one of the goals. And what her goal was to support the production of 26,000 new residential units, 75% of which would be committed as affordable, which equates to 19,500 units. She also wanted to see the increase in the number of new constructions for multifamily by the year 2030. And this number would also include market rate as well as affordable. And we try to track our performance in meeting these goals on our website through our affordable housing dashboard. So you can follow our progress. If you log on to our website, it'll take you to our dashboard, and it kind of lays out where we are with completed projects under the construction, projects in the pipeline. So it's a really good resource, and we're very proud of it. So in the NOFA that we published, I guess last week, or I guess the week before last, there were 4 resources that we named as part of the funding availability. One is our Home Investment Partnership Funds, which is an annual entitlement from HUD. Each year, we get about $4 to $5 million in home entitlement, and we also earn about $1 million in program income. So out of that, there's the largest percentage of those funds are used towards multifamily production and or preservation. And then I believe in 2022, we got a one-time allocation of what we call home art funds as a result of the COVID relief. This was, like I said, a one-time allocation. We still have funding available through this resource. And later in this presentation, John Manival is going to talk to you a little bit about these specialized funds. And then we have our Housing Investment Trust Fund, which is fairly new to the county. I guess for the last 4 years, we now have a dedicated revenue source to fund our trust fund. So annually, at a minimum, we get $10 million a year to capitalize that fund, and it's coming from a percentage of the county's recordation taxes. And finally, it's not a cash contribution, but it's a valuable contribution, and it's a payment in lieu of taxes. So that is a negotiated agreement, and where the owner of an affordable housing project can agree to pay a set fee towards the taxes in lieu of the full county property taxes. So I'm going to talk to you a little about our funding considerations. So as I mentioned, we have home funds and we have housing investment trust funds, as well as home ARP. But I said John's going to talk about that next. But these funds can be used for acquisition, rehab, or new construction. It can be used for senior housing or family housing. One doesn't prioritize the other. Our funds are put into the capital stack as a source of subordinate debt. It's gap financing. It's up. We advertise that we provide up to $2.5 million per project. That's one or the other. It's not 2.5 home and 2.5 trust fund. It's one or the other, and the department will decide which funding source is best available and ready to fund your project when that project's ready to go. And I will say for this funding round that we just published, we are prioritizing those projects that are seeking 9% low-income housing tax credits from the state of Maryland. These are very competitive funds. The state has not announced their funding round, but the whole point of us doing this is to get out in front of them so we have time to collect applications, review them, decide which projects we're going to support, and then be able to provide the developer with a letter of support to put with their application. And yes, we are prioritizing 9%, but we are considering 4% applications. So, we encourage 4% applications to apply as well. And depending on the funding sources, most of the developers that are experienced in this space know that home funds, because they are federal entitlement dollars, they come with some extra conditions such as like Section 3 compliance, environmental review, etc. So just to keep that in mind. And then to talk about our pilots, the payment in lieu of taxes a little bit, we review them on a project by project basis because we realize one size doesn't fit all, and we like to have the flexibility to be able to support projects that are a real priority to the county. But in the NOFA, you will see that we are requesting that in your underwriting, as you're running your numbers, to limit your deferral to 600 per affordable unit. And that's only for the county's portion of the real estate taxes. So for example, if you do the math and you come to figure that per unit county real estate taxes are $1,000 per unit, you could assume a $600 deferral based on the need, and then your payment would be $400 per unit. There is a pilot analysis workbook on our website, and Jane will talk to you a little bit about that in her presentation. So I think now I'm going to turn it over to John so he can go over this slide and talk to you about our home ARP funding. John?
Thank you very much, Pam, and nice to be here today and see such a great turnout to learn about the county's NOFA. As Pam indicated, the county received a special allocation of home funds back as part of the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. These funds are known as Home ARP, the ARP standing for American Rescue Plan, County received about $7 million of this one-time injection of home funds into its home program. As you know, the county has long administered home funds and is a direct recipient of those funds from HUD, and these funds add to that allocation. These funds came with a number of strings attached to them that make them somewhat different than normal home funds. But with those strings comes some additional flexibilities in terms of the ability to use these funds. I want to point out, very importantly, that while, as Pam noted, you can't take the county's regular home funds and HTF funds and ask for 2.5 million from each of those pots. You can add home ARP request to your request for home or HITF. So home ARP is an incremental addition of funding you can request from the county through this NOFA, in addition to home, HTF, or pilot funding. The flexibilities that come with home ARP are primarily enhanced funding amounts in terms of the allowable uses of the home ARP funds. Specifically, you can request up to and receive up to 100% of the allowable total development cost of any home ARP assisted units. The home ARP allowable costs are very broad. You can learn more about them by reading the rules of the program. I'm not going to go through every single reference to the program rules today, but I'll give you a good resource at the end of my discussion here about how to find out about that. In addition to requests for 100% of the allowable development cost of home ARP funds, you can also request up to $45,000 per home ARP unit to fund an operating cost assistance reserve, which is intended to help mitigate the higher costs associated with operating a home ARP unit versus the revenue that will be generated by those units. What do I mean about that differential? Well, it's very important to keep in mind that home ARP units need to be set aside for occupancy by homeless households with incomes at or below 10% of area median income. So as you model your transaction, you need to assume that the rental revenue you'll be receiving from those units will be significantly lower than even the extremely low income requirements of the tax credit program or home programs. You need to model those units at 10% of AMI. That's going to keep the rent on those units very, very low and make them affordable to households that are exiting the county's continuum of care and are homeless. The intent is to serve households who don't have access to rental assistance vouchers and provide a handful of units in low-income housing tax credit properties that can be affordable for a very long period to that clientele. Also, no more than 10% of the units in a project can be home ARP assisted units, and priority will be given to projects led by developers with demonstrated capacity to develop, own, and operate permanent supportive housing. County recognizes that this is not necessarily the favored approach of some developers in terms of serving this clientele, but there are a subset of developers who have kind of cracked the code, figured out a good way of operating permanent supportive housing units within their developments, and are providing these home ARP funds in addition to its normal resources to support those units. In terms of resources, I encourage you to look very closely at page 6 of the NOFA, which talks about home ARP in greater detail. And most importantly, on that page of the NOFA, there is a link to a detailed term sheet for home ARP funds that the county has posted to its website. That term sheet goes into much greater detail about the exact terms of these funds, as well as provides links to important HUD resources that describe the requirements to comply with the home ARP rules. Thanks for this opportunity, Pam. I'll turn it back to you.
Thanks, John. John, reminds me to let you guys know as well, on our website, we do have term sheets for our home funds as well as our housing investment trust fund. So that is a good resource to pop in there and check out those term sheets. So I'm going to talk about our funding priorities. I feel like the first two bullets are really like loud and clear that these are really top priorities for us. And that would be new construction and on preservation of affordable housing that is within a mile of, we name a few of the priority Metro TOD transit orient development areas such as Branch Avenue, Largo Town Center, New Carrollton, Prince George's County, Prince George's Plaza Metro, as well as Suitland. And then we also are putting an emphasis on the Blue Line and Purple Line transit corridor. But there are some metro areas that I didn't name here, and they're priorities as well. We're really interested in all of the TOD areas and building affordable housing and preserving affordable housing around those. Most importantly, we're looking for projects that can deliver units that are affordable to households earning 50% of the AMI and below. We know that 60s seem to be the popular, target. The county really needs some 50s and below. The county realizes that's expensive to do, but we are really searching for projects that can bring some of those units to fruition in Prince George's County. And then, of course, conformance with the county's Prince George's County 2035 adopted general plan. There's a link to that plan in the NOFA, and you could take it. There's a whole section that talks about housing. And of course, we're looking for mixed use, mixed income projects, and projects that include sustainable design, energy efficiency, and green design standards, which most of our projects that we fund are also seeking, like we said earlier, tax credits from the state of Maryland, and some of these priorities meet up with theirs as well. And so before I turn it over to Jane, I just wanted to mention Council Bill 51, 2022, which talks about the county's employment and hiring requirements, and it's applicable to all county-funded projects that are receiving greater than $1 million in subsidy or assistance from the county. And the purpose of this obviously is to create high-value employment opportunities for certain county residents, county-based small businesses, locally owned and operated businesses, and county-based minority businesses. The policies that are associated with these requirements are detailed in the county's code, and it can be found in section 10-335 of the code. I just want to point out here that our agency, DHCD, does not enforce or monitor this requirement, but we do help facilitate the relationship between the county's compliance manager in creating what we call a supplier diversity and equity plan. And we do have an example of that plan on our website. But the person that you will really be in touch with when you are ready to do this is a gentleman by the name of Jonathan Mason. He's our new compliance and monitoring manager with the county council, and his contact information is here. We've developed a really good relationship with him, and we would be able to put you in touch with him for more questions surrounding this whole employment and hiring requirements. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jane.
Good morning. My name is Jane Bryce. I'm an underwriter with Prince George's County Department of Housing. We are going to start by going over the submission requirements. They're very similar to last year, what we required in the NOFA or 2 years ago. We are looking for the Maryland CDA Form 202. We'd like to receive that in Excel format so that we can take a look at all the formulas and so forth. We also would like portions or all of certain exhibits from the application submission package that is on their website. We're looking for the self-scoring table. We're looking for the other project financing, which is located underneath of Exhibit A. We don't need any of the other information, just the other project financing. Under Exhibit B, we're looking for the site map and photographs, as well as site control. For Exhibit C, we are looking for all of the development team information so that we can get a full idea of who's going to be part of this project. We are also looking for all of the financial statements for the developers, owners, and guarantors. So that would be the last 3 years financial statements as well as the last interim statement. And we also follow their guidelines for with them being audited and so forth. And Exhibit E, for the construction information, we are only looking for the Form 212 and also the building evaluation report. We also ask that you attach all of the renderings and elevations so we can get a good feel for how the project looks and is going to be constructed. Then we have 2 of our own forms that we need to have completed. They will be the supplemental application and the pilot analysis workbook. So we will provide these to you. We'll share a project folder that will have both documents inside. You'll email Karen Stewart, whose email is listed on here, and request a shared folder. She'll have both of these items in the folder, and you will just let her know what the project name is going to be and who needs access to that project folder. Then once you have that, you can upload for the period of time that's left in the NOFA opening to submit whatever documents that have been required and that you've completed at any time that you want. So here's just a list of the NOFA schedule. We published the NOFA on January 21st. We have our conference today. The application submission deadline is March 24th. That may change depending on when the state's round opens. As Pam had mentioned before, we did extend that during the last NOFA. So once they make their announcement as to when the round starts, we will inform everyone as to whether we'll keep this deadline or if it will be extended. But for now, we would suggest that you expect it to end on March 24th. And then we would plan to issue letters of support on April 30th, assuming that it does indeed close on the 24th. For any questions on specific projects, we suggest that you talk to Pam. And her email address is here, and most of you know her. So I would just reach out to Pam if you have any direct project questions versus discussing those at the end of this meeting. We have a couple of projects just to point out that went through the last NOFA. One of them is this Residences at Springbrook that was done by the Housing Initiative Partnership, Parallax Development Group, and Bank of America CDC. It was located in Clinton, and it was a senior housing development for 62 plus. There were 90 units, and there were 50% units, 54 of them, which was great, as well as 35 units at 60%. And as you can see listed, there was different financing that was used in this project, including our home funds and HITF funds. This was an interesting project, and so that's why there are both of those in here. The next one that we are highlighting is the Glenarden Hills Phase 3 project, which is a 9% project. The developers were Penrose, the Redevelopment Authority of Prince George's County, B&W Solutions, and Shabak Ministries. And this was located in Lanham. And it was a multifamily rental development with 6 apartment buildings with a mix of different townhomes and apartments. And as you can see, there was a great mix of area median incomes that were served, including 30%, 40%, and 50%. And as you can see in the financing, we contributed home funds to this, and there was also some county infrastructure funds that were used for this project. So listed are a few references. If you have any questions, you can contact any of us. And I think that's about it for those. And then if you have any questions and answers, we'll go ahead and move into the next section if you have any questions and answers.
Yeah, thanks, Jane. And I think one of the things I would like to say before we entertain questions, I see a few have come in through the chat, and I think we've answered them as we've been going along, is I think it's very important that if you are planning a project and you're planning to submit to us, I think it's important that you make sure you're in contact with the council person for that district, make them aware of your plans, make sure they're supportive of your plans, as well as you getting involved in the community, knowing the constituents in that area. I just think that's very, very important when you are planning a project. I also wanted to take this time to thank Kiera. Kiera was very helpful in getting this Zoom meeting set up, sending everybody their link. And you've heard us mention Karen Stewart. Karen is on my team. She'll be the person you email to get access to a share folder, but a private folder. It's only shared with our team and whoever you choose to have Karen send to have access, because that will be the vehicle in which you upload all of your project documentation. And quite honestly, we're not looking in that folder until the time closes on March 24th. If that ends up being the closing date, we will shut down access, and then that's when we start beginning our reviews. So just wanted you to know that. I see somebody in the comment just said, will you share a copy of this PowerPoint? And while we're not going to share it individually with everyone on here, but we will post it on our website along with the recording, because this is also being recorded. So, I mean, we're here until noon. So I was going to open it up if anybody wanted to go live with a question, or, you can always email me, Jane, John, any of us. I think you'll find our team is very responsive. We can get back to you, because if they're project specific, this really isn't the forum for them. So yeah, we'll be happy to entertain. So does anybody?
Hi, Pam. So I have a couple questions from the chat. So they're specific to home ARP. So can the home ARP funds be used at 30%? This AMI is commonly used for a person experiencing homelessness. And then it asks, what is the maximum amount of a project can request for home ARP? So 2 questions from Omer.
Yeah, so thanks for those great questions. There was also an earlier question about vouchers, rental assistance vouchers, and home ARP units that Ashley answered. Let me take this a few steps at a time. In terms of the AMI targeting, you need to model home ARP units with rents that are affordable to households with incomes at 10% of area median income. So you need to apply the normal 30% of income towards rent, apply that towards the 10% AMI or the unit type based on the number of households. While 30% AMI units are very affordable, 10% AMI is even more affordable. And the target population here are households that are in the county's continuum of care for the homeless. So they're going to have very low incomes. They're going to need deeply, deeply affordable rents to be able to live independently. So while a household could technically have a voucher, you do not want to underwrite your deal assuming they will come to you with a voucher. In fact, they're going to be referred to you from the continuum of care. 99% chance they're not going to come to a project with home ARP units with a voucher in hand. Now, they may move in and then at some point later in their tenancy qualify for a voucher, and that's great. You certainly cannot discriminate based on source of income, so you'll be required to allow them to retain their tenancy with a voucher, and that frankly would have a positive impact on your bottom line. But do not underwrite these units assuming you're going to get any more income than what's affordable and attainable by somebody at 10% of area median income. And that ties into the question of how much home ARP you could get for a project. There's no express cap per project, except that you can't do more than 10% of your units in a project as home ARP, and the home ARP funds can be no more than 100% of the total development cost of that particular unit, plus a $45,000 reserve fund. So for instance, if you have a 50-unit project, the maximum number of home ARP units you could do is 5. If your average development cost is $200,000 per unit, you could get $200,000 plus $45,000 times 5 home ARP units. So the idea is you provide a lot of subsidy for those home ARP units on the capital side and with a reserve to offset the fact that you're not going to be generating much income as those units are occupied. And Ashley also put in the chat a link to the term sheet that I mentioned earlier.
Thank you for answering that. I actually had another question, kind of more regarding the NOFA in general. So, in the section that you asked us to fill out for development team information, there's multiple different sections, which include a Form 203 and a debarment affidavit. Do we need to complete all these sections of the development team information for this NOFA?
Yes. It's a yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Don't be shy. If you have any questions, speak up. And like I said, if there are questions, maybe you go away, you think about it, and you have, questions come to your mind. Our emails are on the PowerPoint, so feel free.
How you doing there, Pam? It's Malik.
Hi, Malik.
I'm good. I just wanted to clarify what John said, and I'm also going to look at the term sheet, but just for my notes, you said if a project has 50 units, we would be able to do 200. You said 200K times 45K or 245K, 200K plus 45K plus the number
Yeah.
of home op units.
Yeah, that was just a hypothetical. The actual amount you could request is the actual total development cost for those units. So if your project's average cost is, say, $200,000 a unit, that's what the example was. But if it's higher or it's lower, the home ARP is going to be up to that amount of the actual development cost of the unit. Now, if you've only got 1-bedroom units that are available for home ARP and your project includes a mix of 2 and 3 bedrooms, there's an accounting that needs to be done to figure out what the pro rata cost of those smaller units are. So that'll all be part of the underwriting. We can work with you on that ahead of time if that's important. But it is up to 100% of the total development cost. And that's the county's expectation of what they'll have to put in home ARP funds to get home ARP assisted units.
Just a quick follow-up question to that regarding the home and the housing investment trust funds. Can you request more, or will you be disqualified if you request more than the 2.5?
So I wouldn't say you would be disqualified. We're going to really take a close look at, what the justification is for requesting that amount. I mean, we're being very transparent to say 2.5. We have limited resources. So it is no secret we have gone above a 2.5 loan. I mean, you could research the county's legislative information system and you would see that. But these are for projects that are a very high priority for the county, that are either in a super priority location and that are, giving us super low affordability. So I would say you can, but there's no guarantee that we're going to entertain that amount. And we keep in mind we have limited funds, because so even when you say more than that, I don't know what you're thinking, but it definitely can't be a significant increase over the 2.5. But yeah, there's just no guarantee that we can do that. And I feel the need to just say too that as part of our process, and I know I'm jumping down the road a bit, but once you get a letter of support and then you go and you apply for the state funding and you get all of that funding secured, then there will be the next step with us will be to take this project in front of our county council for approval. We have to take everything in front of them for approval, whether it's $1 or, $3 million, as well as our pilots. So just wanted to put that out there that is a part of our process, but we don't get into that until a project has secured all of its financing, and then we're ready to go down that legislative pipeline. And that's why I said it's very important to keep your council person in that district well aware of what you're doing and your project, because you will want their support.
Hi, Pam. It's Carl Williams. Long time no see.
Hey, Carl.
I'm not sure who this is the right question for, but say we applied for 3 million, but you only have 2 million available. Um, would you make that adjustment and move forward with the 2 million, or will you, I guess, recreate the pie that we may come in for 2 million and a pilot or something, and
Yeah, so I mean,
that
it's all about negotiations, right? So, yeah,
always has been, always has been.
it's always about negotiations. Our NOFA gives you the baseline that really is that happy medium where we would like to land. There are always negotiations. Sometimes pilots are adjusted so you can increase your NOI. Sometimes we can play around with the different levels of affordability. So, we've even been in situations where maybe CDA can give a little more, we can give a little more. So, I mean, it's all about negotiations. That's what this whole industry is about. So just keep in mind the 2.5, the $600 deferral per pilot. That is our standard guidelines. And if you deviate too far from that, it may become a non-negotiable project. It might just not be feasible for us. So I'm taking it our presentation was so informative that we don't have a lot of questions. But we're still here, so let us know. Drop it in the chat. Send us an email.
Thank you. This was very helpful.
Thank you. So I think our team will just hang on till about 11:45. And if there's no other questions, I believe at 11:45, we'll drop off as well. So we'll just hang in here. So if you think of that last minute question, just take yourself off mute or throw it in the chat. Oh, it says, who would be the best person to contact if we have more questions following this discussion? Probably me. If it's home art, I think John is probably the best resource for that. But I can help field other questions.
Hey, Kiara, can you share the slide with our contact information once more, please, so folks can see it before they jump?
Jane, do you mind
Or
sharing?
Jane? Thank you.
Mhm.
And I think that last page, yeah, the last page had those. Again, the PowerPoint as well as the recording will be posted on our website. Not sure if we're going to get that up there today. It'll either be later this week or, at the very latest, the beginning of next week, but it will be on the website. So I think, we have crickets in the room. So I think that's a good indication that we're going to go ahead and close out. Just want to thank everyone again for taking the time to join us this morning. Thank you to my colleagues for helping out with this presentation. And we look forward from hearing from you guys and look forward to seeing some nice, healthy, robust submissions in the coming weeks and months. So with that, everybody have a great day and great afternoon, and we'll see you around soon. Thank you.
Thank you.